Well, Abraham Lincoln, of course, celebrated for freeing the slaves and leading this nation through the Civil War. But despite preserving the Union and modernizing the economy, not everyone a fan.
A new book called Wild Wolf, The Great Civil War Rivalry is the story of Colonel Frank Lane Wolford. He was wounded 7 times in more than 300 battles and skirmishes. But there were some things about Lincoln he didn't like, and he was actually thrown in jail for it.
Wow.
This is Ronald Wolford Blair, the author and Wolford's great-great-nephew. So nice to see you, Mr. Wolford, or Mr. Blair.
It's so great to be back in Cincinnati. You know, I lived in Clifton for a long time, grew up in Norwood, living in the horse country now.
Yeah,
But yeah, after 16 years worth of work on
this finally came to be.
It finally came to be. New information about Abraham Lincoln. Some people might call it good, some might call it bad.
Yeah.
But I accidentally discovered a letter, his last July 4th letter regarding Frank Wolford that tells the whole story.
Wow. What did he say about your great-great-uncle?
Well, I don't want to give it all away.
Okay, well, give us a little bit.
But I'll give you some.
Okay.
His speech was taken away from him by Lincoln. And it put him in a precarious position because that was a presidential election year of 1864. Wolford was the presidential elector for his opponent McClellan.
Okay.
But his reason was his protest against black enlistments. Kentuckians were extremely afraid of not only taking their slaves, which they thought was a state prerogative, but then handing them uniforms and rifles and bayonets. And 50%, for example, 50% of Lexington were former slaves. And so this just scared them out of their minds. Also, civil rights violations. No more in history were citizens' civil rights taken away in the United States. It's been estimated as many as 32,000 political prisoners were taken, and many of them Kentuckians, some of them women and children.
Wow. So 16 years it took for you to put this together. What was it that first made you want to pursue more about your great-great-uncle, and what made you keep after it for 16 years?
I knew I was onto something, and that's a great question. I knew that this guy was nationally famous at the time, lost in history. He was in all the Chicago papers.
It's not a name you know when you think about that period now.
And it's a virtual guide to the Civil War and what I call the Central Campaign, the battles in Ohio, the only battle in Ohio, the Great Chase, where his nemesis, John Hunt Morgan, the thunderbolt of the Confederacy, was chased. And I knew politically there was something that needs to be said here. And that July 4th letter that Lincoln wrote and what he did the next day is very telling. You know, the Lincoln movie, you may not have seen that.
The one that Spielberg just did?
Now that's starting to show a different side of Lincoln. Now, Wolford was promised a trial by Lincoln. Actually, he was arrested and taken to Washington and actually consulted with him on military affairs for a while. But he promised him a trial. He never got one? He never got a trial.
Interesting.
And I think that's the political aspect of Lincoln. He was extremely political, probably the smartest one in the administration.
So he kind of knew how to play the games in Washington,
And the crazy thing here, even though Wolford was a Democrat and Lincoln a Republican, his men asked him how he liked him when he met him in Washington, D.C., and he said, he's a nice man. So I wish I had the chance to meet him.
Well, Mr. Blair, you're going to do a book signing at Joseph Beth Booksellers in Norwood tonight. It's at 7 o'clock. If you want to go and see him and learn more about his great-great-uncle, the Wild Wolf, and I'm sure the book is on local bookshelves too. So nice to meet you, Mr. Blair.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.